talk to you in detail about everything I made in 2025. This includes 6 sweaters that I knitted and 2 accessories. I did knit a 3rd accessory. It was the Sophie scarf, but I did end up gifting that, so I don't have that to show, so I'm just gonna leave that one out. I have a total of 8 projects to go over. So the designs that I'm going to talk about today will be the Step by Step sweater by Florence Miller, the Cloud sweater by Petite Knit, the Hanstholm sweater by Petite Knit, the Mathilda sweater by Strikkevorin, the Tessa sweater by Strikkevorin, Beanie number 6 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and the Sophie hood by Petite Knit. So as you can probably tell from that list of patterns and designers, I mainly stuck within like 3 different people or brands that knit. And so I think like one of my goals for 2026 will definitely be to try to expand more into other designers, because there's so many people out there and they all make amazing pieces. I think that for my first year of like consistently knitting, I think this was a good range of people to start with and to get really like a foundation. This year for 2026, I'm really looking forward to broadening my horizons. For this past year, I think a lot of patterns that I ended up choosing were more comfortable knits. I think that they were definitely more on the beginner, touching upon the intermediate side of the skill level that you are for a knitter. For 2026, I definitely want to try to challenge myself more. I want to expand more upon my knitting skills. With this video, we are going to start going through each of the projects I knitted from the first one to the very last one. So let's get started. The first ever project I knitted in 2025 was the Step by Step sweater by Florence Miller. And so this is a top-down pattern, a raglan sweater. I knitted it in this beautiful brown color. I think it's called Cinnamon. This pattern was probably the best one that I could have started with getting back into knitting. But she has a whole YouTube tutorial on how to do every single step of the sweater. Sometimes I even go back to it now and watch like some of the techniques that she shows, because she's so good at explaining everything. So as a beginner, it was so helpful to have the pattern, but also to have the video to visually watch and see what she does. This is definitely one of my favorite knits so far. I wear this one all the time. I actually started off the year knitting in English style knitting. So this whole sweater is in English style, whereas all of the other ones are in continental. And I do feel like there's actually a big difference, at least with me, in knitting English and continental. I feel like my tension is a lot more consistent when I knit English, whereas continental, maybe because I'm still getting used to it, but my tension, you can kind of see where some stitches might be looser and other ones are tighter. But I feel like with this sweater, it was really consistent with how I knitted. And you can kind of see that. For this first one, I didn't do German short rows. So I did her folded collar, but I did not do the German short rows for this because I know that she said that it wasn't required. And being my first sweater I knitted, I was pretty intimidated by the German short rows, as a lot of you probably have been in the past or still are. When I move on to my second Step by Step sweater, I did do the German short rows for that one. I knitted this one in a size B. So I would say it's a pretty fitted sweater on me. I can definitely still wear a long sleeve and I can wear it under a jacket. It's definitely on the more fitted side, which I'm completely fine with. This is a very warm yarn, and so I'd rather it be fitted so I stay warmer anyway. Moving on to my second knit of the year. This is the Tessa sweater by Strikkevorin. And this is an easy top-down raglan sweater. And I knitted this in 2 strands of Drops Air in wheat and in yellow. So it created the sunset effect, but my boyfriend says it's a little bit more corn on the cob. So we won't get into that. I did knit this in English style as well, so the tension is pretty good throughout. When I blocked this sweater, it grew so much. So the sleeves were too long and the body was too long. I haven't taken it out yet. I've been trying to look at it as more of like this really oversized, cozy sweater. I definitely think I'd wear it more if it was shorter and if the sleeves weren't as long. This is still a beginner pattern, but I definitely was able to do a lot of the techniques that she had written in the pattern because I knitted the step-by-step sweater first. In the step-by-step sweater pattern, she explains all the techniques, but in the Tessa sweater pattern, she doesn't really explain the techniques. She just says what you're supposed to do. It was definitely a lot easier to knit this because I had knit the other one beforehand. It's still doable as a beginner if this is your first knit. One of the reasons why I really love this one was because it knit up really, really fast. This is probably my fastest knit to date, and it's because I think that we ended up using size 8 needles, and that's pretty big, so it's a chunky sweater. You can also see how I did I-cord edging. And so she has you do I-cord edging on all of the hems. The only problem I came across really when doing the I-cord edge was the finishing of it. I couldn't really figure out a good way to end it where it looked seamless. That's where I ended up finishing it. There's probably a better way that I could have ended each I-cord edge, but I did the best I could at the time, and I'll just have to look at more videos for the future if I end up doing an I-cord edge again. I think I would knit this again, but I would choose a different color combo for it. But I think it's definitely a great like cozy, rainy, snowy day sweater that you can just like kind of cozy up in and watch a movie or read a book or knit another sweater. So I definitely would still recommend this pattern, but I'm definitely moving on to more challenging projects now. So for my third sweater of the year, I did the step-by-step sweater again because I loved it so much. I ended up wanting to make more of like a lighter, airier spring sweater, and so I ended up using drop Nepal for this sweater. And this is definitely like my most fun sweater that I've been able to wear so far. I love the colors that I chose. So like I said before, it's drops Nepal in lemonade and light blue. And they're both like my favorite colors, so I'm glad I was able to incorporate that into this pattern. I did make modifications on this sweater compared to the first one I did. So the first one, I basically followed the pattern, but I'm glad that I kind of did more of what I wanted for the striped version. On her striped version, it is beautiful, but the stripes were too wide for me, and I wanted to go for more of like a clean, minimal approach to the stripes for this one. So instead of doing 6 rows of stripes, I only did 4, but I think it really makes like a big difference. For the collar, I didn't do the folded collar, and I didn't make it as long as she says. I made it half the length, and I just did 1 layer for the collar. I did end up doing the German short rows. So the first step-by-step sweater I did, I knitted it in a size B, and so this one I knitted in a size C. So it has a slightly more roomy fit. I wouldn't say it's oversized, but it's definitely not as fitted as my first one. I do have to say, one of the things that really sticks out to me when I compare the two is the yarn type. The yarn I used for this first sweater is very itchy, and it feels like thicker. And then for this yarn I used for the second sweater is drops Nepal, and it's a lot softer. It feels a little bit lighter. So I can definitely wear this one more going into the spring, but this one I save for when it's like midwinter here. I probably wouldn't knit another step-by-step sweater. I actually do have a third one that's in progress right now, so I think 3 is enough for me, but I think it is just a great sweater to start with. The fourth sweater I knitted this year, I really wanted to make like a fun cotton sweater, and Strikkevorin came out with a pattern. It was a wool sweater. It had a lobster motif on it, and I loved it so much, but I knew I couldn't wear wool in the summer here because it gets to like 80, 85 degrees sometimes. The lobster motif is such a summery feel to it, so I really wanted to make the sweater in cotton, so I was able to do that. which was so great. I really love this sweater so much. It has a nice heavy weight to it because the cotton I chose is pretty thick, but it's still really airy since it is cotton. So I used Drops Paris. The colors are off-white and red. So off-white obviously for the body, and then red for the motif of the lobster. One of the things I really love about this sweater is the roll neck. I love a roll neck. I think it's such a cool, like, easygoing collar. I was really happy that she incorporated that into this design. So I learned a few things when knitting this pattern. This is my first color work, so I did learn how to do that. I learned how to do a garter stitch hem, and then I also learned how to do a split hem. Although it was really intimidating, all of those things were actually really easy to do once you just kind of get the hang of it, watch a couple YouTube tutorials. I think she kind of explains a little bit more in detail for this pattern than she does in her Tessa sweater. It might be because it's a newer pattern of hers. It definitely has a boxy fit. When I blocked the sweater, it actually ended up shrinking a little bit because it's cotton. So I think I was supposed to block in a different way than I would normally block wool. But I didn't really mind it that much, and I can always try to stretch it out in the future. So I was able to actually finish this at the very end of summer last year, so it was like in August. I was debating between the size small and the size medium. I ended up knitting this in a size small, which I'm really glad I did because it's a lot boxier than I thought it would be. But this will definitely be my go-to sweater this summer, 2026, and right when it turns 70 degrees outside, I will have this on. This is the second to last sweater I knitted for 2025, and this one is actually a gift for my boyfriend. He wanted some really complicated color work sweater, and I was like, you know what, I'm not at that point yet, but I appreciate your believing in me that I can actually do that. I ended up going for like a top-down raglan just to start as his first sweater so that he can wear it like pretty quickly for the fall. This is the Hanstholm sweater by Petite Knit. I knitted this one in a large. I substituted the yarn for this one with Drops Soft Tweed in Grizzly Bear. It was actually a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be, and maybe I just kept misreading the pattern. The part that I found tricky was the German short rows. For some reason I kept messing up on them for this one. Luckily it ended up working out. I do love this yarn. If I was knitting this for me, I would definitely add a strand of mohair into it because the yarn is thick in some areas and thin in others, and there's no like consistency with it, which makes sense because it is tweed, so there is like a nice texture to it. However, it does leave room for subtle holes in it. It definitely helped when I blocked it out. I did make a few mistakes on this sweater. I wanted the sleeves to not be as slim as she makes it in the photos, and so I didn't decrease enough on purpose. But that was a big mess up for me because it ended up being that the sleeves were like really big, and then I decreased too much at the end, and then it gave like this weird like billowing effect. I ended up doing the Italian bind offs, but unfortunately when I blocked it, it stretched a lot. The body was fine and a good length, but the sleeves ended up going past his fingers. So I had to actually take it out, redo the Italian bind off. And then when he started wearing it, I realized I did not like how it looked with the sleeves. So I ended up taking it back and taking out the sleeves all the way up to the first decrease I did. So basically taking out the whole sleeve up to like probably this point here, and redoing it all at the decrease that she recommends. I think she recommended that I do 12 decreases, but I think I ended up only being able to do 9. I had a few extra stitches, but I think it ended up looking a lot better. So now the sleeve is more straight instead of like wide and then like the ribbing. So I ended up having to do the Italian bind off like 6 times basically on the sleeves themselves, so like all together. So that was definitely a journey, and I definitely know how to do an Italian bind off now, but honestly I do kind of love it. It does take a long time. It took me a whole day or two to do just the Italian bind off for the one sleeve, but I'm sure the more I do it, the faster it'll go. And for my last finished sweater of the year, it is the Cloud sweater by Petite Knit. This was knitted in Drops Flora and Drops Kid Silk, and the drops flora was green and the kid silk was sage green, and I love the sweater. This is definitely my most worn sweater of 2025. I had so much fun with this pattern. I don't know why, because it's like a pretty basic pattern. Instead of doing top down, you actually knit like the back and then the shoulders and then the front, and then once you're done with the yoke, you join under the arms and then you knit in the round. And so that's the same for the Mathilda sweater too. And I found that one really fun as well. Just kind of like switches things up a bit and makes it so that I'm not always doing top down. But I do love how easy top down is as well. I love the colors I chose. I love the green with the flecks of white in it. I think that it really makes like a great texture. Another thing I love about this sweater is the roll neck. As I've stated before, I love this style neck, but also it has the rolled hem at the sleeves and at the bottom too. So I really love that as well. And that was really easy finishing to do too. I knitted this in a size small. I was going to do a medium, but I am glad I did the small. It is a more fitted sweater. I think that when she wears it, it looks like hers is a little bit oversized. And if I knit this again, which I will be doing, I might go for the medium, but I'm not sure yet. It's super soft. I really love Drops Flora. I feel like it gives it a little bit of structure, which is really nice. And the mohair is also pretty soft as well. So I do have two accessories I wanted to show you today. This is the Beanie number 6 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I love her patterns so much. I think she has such great taste and such great style. I love the colors that she chooses. Her use of neutrals is amazing. And so when I saw this pattern come out, I was like, I definitely have to do this. I could not find the yarn anywhere because I think when she released this pattern, a lot of people bought the yarn and it kind of got sold out in a lot of places. So luckily I ended up finding it on Etsy, and I used the exact yarn that she uses, just in different colors. It is the Teddy Deer, and this is boucle yarn, and this is in off-white, and the top yarn is Jacquard Willia in the color Brandy, which I think was a new color that they came out with. I'll definitely remake this, and I would like to do the bottom part in a dark color. I struggled a lot with this yarn. It's so tricky to see if you like dropped a stitch or if you missed a stitch because of the texture of it. I think that the Willia was one of my favorite yarns to knit. You actually knit this with 2 strands held together, so it's pretty bulky yarn. It was such a great texture. It has like this like fun little like squish to it, so it's kind of spongy, so I really loved that because it was cozy, and it makes it super stretchy too. The pattern was very well written. I had no issues following the pattern at all. I would definitely recommend this if you're a beginner. I did this in February and I was able to wear it all winter. The second accessory I knitted in my last knit of 2025 is the Sophie hood by Petite Knit. And I don't wear beanies often, even though I did just knit a beanie. So when I saw a hood, I was like, okay, I have to just knit this and see how I love it. I ended up knitting this in a size medium. I ended up using Drops Charisma in beige brown. I learned how to stitch together the middle of the hood. It also has the I-cord edge. I had so much fun with this. I would definitely knit this again. So I did want to do one honorable mention for 2025. It's not technically completed yet because I still have to put buttons on it, but I did finish it right after Christmas before the new year started. So besides the buttons, it's basically a finished knit, so I'm just gonna show it anyway. But I did knit the Novice cardigan by Petite Knit. I knitted this with the cloud laying yarn. Both my mom and I chose this pattern, chose the yarn. She has it in different colors though. And we both knitted it in a size small. This was pretty easy. I've never knitted a cardigan before, so this is my first one. The yarn is super cozy, so soft, very, very stretchy. All I have to do is add buttons to it. So I'm debating between like mother of pearl buttons or like a nice dark brown button or a cream button. So we are going to go button shopping soon and see what I come up with. My most worn sweater is the cloud sweater by Petite. And then I'd say my second most worn sweater is the Step by Step sweater by Florence, the very first one I made. So this is probably a close second. I would say my least worn sweater of 2025 is the Tessa sweater. I'm either going to try to wear it more or I'm going to try to shorten it so that I can wear it more. I would say my most challenging sweater of 2025 is the lobster sweater. So I'd say this was the most challenging, but also one of the most rewarding knits that I made. So looking forward for 2026, I do have a lot of projects lined up already. So I do have a second cloud sweater that I'm going to knit. I got the same yarn, but in different colors. So I got Drops Flora in a purple. I think it's called Amethyst. And then I think the Drops Kid Silk I got with it, I think that it's called Lavender. So it's gonna be like a purple cloud sweater, which I'm really excited about. So I did start the Flora sweater and I chose a dark gray mixed with a light gray mohair. When I put the two together for my gauge swatch, it looked really great. But when I'm using both of them together for the cables, I don't think it looks that good. It looks a little like matted. It's creating like this halo of light frizz over the dark gray, which is definitely not what I wanted. So I actually ended up having to order another mohair color, which is going to match the dark gray wool that I have, and put those two together and then see what I like more and go from there. Another project I have lined up, which I'm working on right now, is the country bonnet by My Favorite Things Knitwear. My sister for Christmas actually signed me up for a yarn subscription box, which is really exciting. So I'm actually using the yarn that I first got for the first month. I'm using that for the bonnet. And then I also have, as I mentioned previously, a third step-by-step sweater that I have been working on for the past year. I've been teaching my friend how to knit, and so we're both making this sweater. However, she's never knitted before. We started last year, and so we're about halfway done with the yoke right now because we both live in separate areas, so it's kind of hard to meet up and knit together. So I do have that one in progress. And then I do have one more that I am going to start knitting after this bonnet that I'm working on. So it's called the Villain sweater by Sandinist Garn, and it was a collaboration they did with two sisters. And so I ended up getting that in black and red. I talked about that more in my previous video. So that's something I have to start knitting too. So I have a lot that I'm currently working on, a lot that I'm going to be working on. So I think we're going into 2026 pretty strong. I just wanted to end this video by saying if you have any questions or want any more details on any of the patterns that I used for my sweaters, like feel free to comment any questions you have or any comments you have down below, and I will be sure to answer them. I also would love to know what your favorite project was that you knitted this year. I would love to, get suggestions. I love when people talk about that because then I can add some more to like my ongoing list. If you had a favorite sweater that you loved to knit this past year, leave that in the comments because I would love to know what that is. And of course, I have to end by saying please like, comment, and subscribe. I really, truly appreciate it, and thank you so much for watching. I'm excited for my next video and for watching all of yours. Everyone's posting about what they knitted in 2025 and it's been so fun to see. So have a great 2026.